Hello out there, and welcome to a Second Star interview. I am here with JC Peterson, author of Lola at Last, the companion to the excellent novel Being Mary Bennett. Hi, JC. Thanks for being here today. How are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk. I mean, my book is coming out in like 3 weeks.
I know.
So,
So exciting. I can't wait. I've already read it. This is my advanced reader copy, and I love Being Mary Bennett. Do I maybe like this one more? I don't know, but I love them both. So I'm so
can I tell you
excited.
a secret?
Yeah.
I like Lola at Last more.
Okay. I didn't want to say that to you, but I'm glad. Then yeah, I love Being Mary Bennett. Marnie is fantastic, but something about Lola, I just love her.
She's quite a character. I never thought that I would want to write a story about Lydia Bennett. Like Lydia Bennett goes camping is how I think of it. Um, but the very first moment that she showed up on the page in Being Mary Bennett, I was just like, oh, you're fun. And like personally, I feel like I have more in common with Marnie, but man, Lola was fun to write. It was just like start to finish a joy and a trip and something that still makes me laugh, which is always a good sign. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny, and I might have teared up at one point in the book. It gets deep, which is really good. So, for those who don't know, why don't you tell us about Lola and her story?
Yeah. So, Lola at Last is my companion novel to Being Mary Bennett, and it is following Marnie's little sister, Lola. So, they are basically my modern day Bennett family, the Bennetts from Pride and Prejudice. So, she is Lydia Bennett, and I'm thinking of how she would be in the modern world. And I mean, she'd be a disaster. She'd be a disaster.
100%.
Yeah. And also somebody who is, when I was going back and thinking about who Lydia was, she's super confident. Sometimes that confidence is misplaced, like shouldn't be that confident sometimes.
Right.
But she's vivacious and she's young. And so when I was thinking of her story in Pride and Prejudice, I kept being struck with the idea that she's the youngest of the sisters. She's 15 in the source material in Pride and
Right.
Prejudice. She makes a mistake and she's got to like live with it for the rest of her life. She's got to marry a terrible dude.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
she's going to and the whole you're left with the sense of she is going to pay the consequences and she's not going to have probably a very happy life. And I just kept thinking of this idea that she was young and she was preyed on by an older man. And so when I went into Lola at Last, sorry, that's like, I mean, that's a little heavy, but it's
No,
true.
it's true. It's a hundred
Yeah.
percent true.
Yeah. So I wanted to give her a chance to have made those mistakes, right? She's made the mistake with her Wickham, but she's able to move on from it and she's able to grow and be given a chance to actually have a happy ending that she makes for herself instead
Right.
of having the choices made for her. So that was kind of like the backstory of how I got into it. But the story itself, well, once we kick off from there, she's somebody who makes a lot of impetuous choices. And she gets herself into some trouble and she's faced with this choice of like, she's going to either get in major trouble or she can join this program that makes her go into nature and hike and camp and all these things that she's just like,
Nope.
absolutely not into it. So when I say Lydia Bennett goes camping, that's like exactly what it is. And I had so much fun with that because I personally love to hike and camp. And so it was a lot of fun to like make her face these things that I really like and see how she would handle them because she's not going to handle them with any sort of like joy, at least
Or
at the
grace.
beginning. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to step back for a second with what you said. I just love that it is truly giving Lydia Bennett a second chance because
Mhm.
what 15-year-old girl was on the perfect right path? I mean, yes, luckily none of us got stuck marrying
Right.
someone, and not being able to move on from it. But yeah, it's true. You kind of when reading Pride and Prejudice and when watching all the different variations of it, you're like, Lydia's annoying, Lydia's stupid, but like you kind of forget how old she is. And like,
Mhm.
yes, during that time that was viewed differently because women did get married then and they were kind of becoming women. They weren't like the teenagers that we view today, but
Right.
still, we don't have our emotions in check. We're going through hormones, we're going through changes. So I love that this is like a, hey, pause for a second, take a look at Lydia. How would she actually be? Like, who is this person? And you're getting people to look at her in a different light. Because I need to go back now and like reread Pride and Prejudice as like a view from Lydia's point as well.
Yeah. And she is somebody in Pride and Prejudice who was never a favorite. Like
No.
she's never going to be a favorite character. She is in her own little way a villain to Lizzie.
Yeah.
She's keeping Lizzie from going down the path that she's meant to be on. Um, but I just kept thinking, yeah, she's young and she has a certain personality type that was not accepted back then. Right.
No.
And honestly, isn't all that accepted today. A girl or a woman who is able to be okay being loud and making mistakes and being
Right.
brash. That's looked down upon a lot. And I also like, in a small way, this is YA, but in a small way, I like her to, she owns her sexuality. She's open with being like, I like guys and I'm confident in who she is and what she wants.
Right.
And I liked that too. I wanted it to be a really healthy look at somebody who is figuring herself out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and to jump on that bandwagon too, your stories with being Mary Bennett and Lola at Last, they feature characters who you're not changing them. Because I feel like a lot of YA novels, it's like, oh, we started with this character, and at the end of the book, they're not the same character anymore. But that's what I love about your stories is you're not changing them. You're forcing them to look at themselves and grow as a person and it kind of accept who they are and maybe just adapt a little bit differently but not change. So what do you have an inspiration behind that message because it is a powerful one?
Yeah, I would say really I want readers to be able to read this and see characters who can be messy and can make mistakes and then can make more mistakes because Lola makes a ton of them, but that it doesn't define who they are and it shouldn't define the rest of their lives. You can
No.
always learn to approach a problem differently, to consider yourself differently and become like a better version of yourself. So not a new person,
No.
not a different personality. And that was really important with me and with Lola. I didn't want her to become quiet. She's a loud person. She has a voice. And I wanted her to maybe consider how she used it instead of saying, no, I'm going to stop using my voice because that's so important. And again, thinking of teens, I want them to read this and feel again, you can make mistakes and you need to own those mistakes, right? But that it's not the end of the world. The whole point of being a human is that we make mistakes, we hopefully learn a little bit and try not to make them again, but the reality is we might. But you get up you get up the next day and you try and do better. There's this quote that I'm a mom. You've seen me in Second Star a lot
I
with
have
my
seen you.
children.
Yeah.
Um, But there's actually a quote from Anne from Gables that I use a lot with my kids. And I am paraphrasing. I probably have it wrong. But
No
to
worries.
them, I say it's something that Miss Stacy, a character, says to Anne, where she says, tomorrow's a new day with no mistakes in it yet. The idea that doesn't matter how bad today was, hopefully you will have a new chance tomorrow morning to do a little better.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really, really want to explore when I write YA. And that's why I like writing messy characters who oh man, they can be disasters. And it's really
Sure.
fun to read and write. And hopefully it's also showing that they can grow in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I love that. And you definitely have messy characters, and I adore them. Even at times when I don't like them, I'm still like, come on, we got this. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah.
You're still rooting for them. They feel like best friends to me, where you're
Mhm.
just like eye rolling at their mistakes, and then you're just still that best friend who's like, I'm gonna keep rooting for you, and we're gonna get through this. So I
Mhm.
know you said Lola is fun, which she is, and you had fun writing her in being Mary Bennett. But besides that, is there a specific reason why you chose like Lola as the next Barnes sister to write?
She was just the one who felt, honestly, when I wrote Being Mary Bennett, I didn't think that I would want to write a companion novel at all.
Oh, okay.
My inspiration for Being Mary Bennett was realizing for myself that maybe I had more in common with Mary than with Lizzie.
Yeah.
I talked about this before, but we all want to be, or, if you're a certain sort of person, you want to be Lizzie.
Yes,
You want to have like the
100%.
witty comeback right away. And yeah, so I think I realized it hit me like a lightning strike a few years ago now that I was like, oh no, I have more in common with Mary. Who's maybe just like standing awkwardly in the corner and you can see her trying to join the conversation and
Yeah,
maybe being like a beat too late with the retort or like not thinking of the witty thing to say, even though I felt like she's got it in her head. It's just not able to make it out of her mouth.
right.
And I definitely find myself in those situations. So that was the inspiration for Being Mary Bennett. And I just thought this is a one-off. Like
Yeah.
this is my Pride and Prejudice inspired story, and then I'll move on to something else. And seriously, I Lola was a huge surprise. Like huge surprise how much I loved writing her. So when I pitched that as like, hey, I've kind of got this very like top level idea for Lola, um, it was it was fun that I was able to pursue it.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you did because I really enjoyed it. But this is also me not so secretly begging you to make a prequel about the parents because my God, do I want to understand their love
Right.
story?
Right.
And I mean, and I know in Pride and Prejudice, the Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, they're kind of polar opposites. Sometimes you wonder why they're together, but then they have those moments where you're like, ah, there it is. But I want to know why the Barnes are together.
Right. Right.
So can you
I
please
have
come out with their prequel story?
I have this whole backstory in my head of who they were, how they got together, and how they became the people that they are today.
Yeah.
Because, oh yeah, I think you put those two in a room and they're not going to have anything to talk about other than the fact that they have 5 daughters together. Um, they have definitely gone on different paths, but I do still feel that they consider each other their number one support. I
Right.
really do think that even when that doesn't show up on the page, in my head, that's my backstory for them, is that
Yeah.
they have helped each other through a lot of things for a very long time. And so they've become each other's number one, in a weird way
Mm-hmm.
that, because I mean, Mrs. Bennett, or Julia Barnes, my character
Julia.
that I write is, yeah, I can only take her in small doses. And so I try and keep her like not in it too much. And she's in it more in Lola because Lola and Julia are have
Very
a lot more in
similar.
common. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is who Lola could become if she continued on the path that she starts on. She could become Julia, who is
Right.
really, pretty narcissistic, really shallow. Um, but I do think she loves her daughters. She just isn't quite sure how to love them in the way that they need.
Oh yeah. So obviously she annoyed me in Lola, but in being
Yeah.
Mary Bennett, oh, if I could have punched a woman, I would have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I,
So
you know, I wanted that relationship though, where it's like, it's not enough that you're going to cut off contact with her, right?
no.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to walk away from that relationship, but it will always be a little antagonistic. And there's a lot of families that are like that. So I was like,
True.
this feels very real. So, and I could see that's how it would be in Pride and Prejudice too. Like, Mrs. Bennet is always going to be a little bit of a thorn in everybody's side, but she's not going anywhere.
No, she's not. I mean, she is a delightful character, but very annoying at the same time.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of family, the Barnes family and extended in-laws have a really big impact on Lola's life. I know one of the things you write about, which I adore with all my heart, is found family. So do you have a found family, your tribe, and did you also discover them in high school?
Yeah, I am very lucky that I don't live near any family. I grew up in the Midwest, and then after college, I moved first to Oklahoma and then to Colorado. And I'm very, very lucky that over the course of those moves, I have created a really, really strong and supportive friend group. I'm a lot like Marnie in that I don't have a huge cast of friends. It's small, but we're tight.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really lucky in that, like I said, both in Oklahoma and here in Colorado, I've made those handful of friends that feel like they're my people, right? They they just get me and I get them. And it's a really nice way to feel. And I would say to be this is a little sappy. I guess it's near Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But my husband is such a big support for me. And
Yeah.
we started dating when we were babies. We were
Yeah.
very young. So having that person to always to be my first reader, to be the person who's going to give me feedback and cheer me on and listen to me complain nonstop. There's a lot of complaining.
About
That
Mrs. Barnes especially, yeah.
yeah, that's that's really, really special to have. So I'm
Yeah.
lucky.
I 100% understand that too with my husband too. So yeah, I completely get it. So to end on a fun note, I saw on your website that you do love hiking, which is the opposite of our good friend Lola.
Yeah.
Do you have a recommended spot in Colorado where people should go hike to read Lola at Last?
Ooh, I mean, yes, yes, so many. Okay, so if you're in Colorado, if you're along the Front Range, one of my favorite places to hike that became obscenely busy during the pandemic. Hopefully that's going to start going away a little bit. I mean, love all you new hikers. You're great.
But
But
yeah.
um is the Lake Isabel Trail in Indian Peaks Wilderness is one of my very, very favorite places. So I'm a big water fan. My kids make fun of me, especially my older son Nico. He's always like, "Why do you always need to find a waterfall?" Like he's very sassy about it. But I
Yeah.
need water and waterfalls wherever I'm hiking. So this is a really lovely trail that follows a river and you
Oh,
get to do these river crossings and then you turn a corner and you're in this beautiful almost like this valley. You're cradled between these mountains. You're just like
yeah.
surrounded on three sides. And there's this lake up at like, I mean, 11,000 feet. I'm
Wow.
probably very wrong on that elevation, but Indian Peak is really high. Um, and it's just gorgeous. It's amazing. And there's wildflowers, and I've seen marmots and moose, and I love it so, so much. So a lot of people will hike up there and then they find a spot and you have a picnic, you hang out. And so I think it'd be a wonderful place to take Lola. And now I really want to take Lola there. I'm going to have to do it this summer because it's definitely one of those that you can't do.
During the
I
winter.
mean, or even, yeah, the road's not even open in the winter. You have to stop at the winter trailhead. We snowshoe up there too.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of those that you probably can't go to until mid to late June because
Oh, okay.
because you can't get through. So
Well, maybe we need to make a date and have people meet us up there with Lola, and we'll just have like a book club discussion up there.
I would 1,000,000% do that. I have easier ones too if anyone wants an easier hike. That one, it's not hard, but it's like it's a hike to get to, like
Yeah.
both driving from Denver and getting there. So yeah.
Well, like Lola, you have to start with the easier hikes and then work your way up to the bigger
Yeah, you
ones.
can't just jump right into like 2,000 feet of elevation gain. So this one isn't either. It's only like 400 feet of elevation gain. If anybody is looking at it, I've dragged family from the Midwest up there, and every time I'm like, it's easy, and then we get up there and they probably consider murdering me. They haven't so far, but it's a favorite to take people on.
Well, especially with the elevation changes, if you're coming from out of state and stuff too, it's not fun.
No, it's really not. Sorry, family.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I am so excited for everyone to get their hands on this book, Lola at Last. You can purchase it by clicking the link in the description. And thank you so much for joining me, JC, and I'll see you at Second Star soon.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.